Welcome to the fourth period and our reaction to the big news that happened Sunday night, courtesy primarily of that guy for dropping that nugget on everybody. The Vancouver Canucks making some significant changes. Jim Benning out, John Weisbrod out, Travis Green is out, and Nolan Baumgartner is out as well. Let's dive right into this. This obviously wasn't something that happened overnight. This is something that the Aquilinis have been trying to figure out what the best approach was in terms of making a change, what led us to this point and making the amount of changes that they did.
Well, I think first and foremost, when you look at the Travis Green situation, I think that the writing was on the wall there. I think everyone in Vancouver and that follows this team knows that, a change was needed. And I think the biggest thing was, to be completely honest, a lot of it had to do with just their play. The team's just not good right now. They haven't been playing well. You lose to the Pittsburgh Penguins on home ice. You get booed. You have the firing of the head coach and general manager Chance. You get a jersey on the ice, and it just wasn't a good look. So I think that might have sped up the process a little bit. But look, let's be honest. There's no secret that people in this city and people that followed this team didn't think that something was going to happen. I'm just surprised of the kind of the way it went down a little bit and the amount of time that it took to get all of this done.
Right. There's no official GM in place. Dan Smeal is the interim GM. Ross Johnson is the interim assistant GM.
Right.
But Bruce Boudreau is there from a coaching perspective. He's the new head coach for the rest of this season and next. Scott Walker in as well as an assistant coach. What is that going to do for this team at the very least, knowing that they've got a new bench boss in place?
Well, I think for the players, it's just that, Dave. It's a new bench boss, and it's someone that plays an offensive type of game. And look, these players, if Bruce Boudreau and Scott Walker can get Elias Pettersson to somehow magically get his powers back and become Elias Pettersson, then the Canucks are going to be successful. You need to get guys like Brock Besser going. Bo Horvat's got to figure it out as well. So if you're bringing in a guy to introduce a new change and a new style of game, the first thing that has to happen is these guys got to get back to playing their best hockey, because right now they're not.
No, they're definitely not. Sitting near the bottom of the Western Conference. Let's move forward. And obviously, games are going to be played. There's a game tonight against the Los Angeles Kings. Maybe a little fortuitous considering the Kings played last night. But moving forward, they have some decisions they need to make. Doesn't sound like they're going to rush into it in terms of bringing in a new general manager. But are there going to be more additions to this club? Is this a president of hockey ops scenario? Is this a GM? Is this a tandem? What are we going to see here from the management perspective once a change does take place?
Yeah, well, we do know that Bruce Boudreau, just before we get to management, does have a 2-year deal with the Canucks for this season and for next season. So there is some stability there, but that's just it, Dave. It's the stability. You have to nail this hire. I don't care who it is. You have to nail it if you're the Vancouver Canucks, and they know that as well. And I think the biggest thing for them is you need to change the culture. You need to change the culture from the top all the way down, and whether that's bringing in a president of hockey operations and then a general manager, it's something that they're definitely looking at. You're going to see a lot of names linked to the Vancouver Canucks over the next little while. This isn't going to be an easy process. You can't fix 8 years of what this franchise has become overnight. And I think the ownership group does know that. I think the interim GM Stan Smeal knows that, Ryan Johnson as well. But if you're the Vancouver Canucks and you're a fan base, you want this to be a long-term plan. You want this search to go for quite some time. You're going to hear lots of different names being speculated around this team, but they're going to wait and they're going to take their time to make sure that they do get this hire right.
Well, let's touch on a couple names that are already floating around for fun. Why not? Former Canadiens GM Marc Bergevin, their assistant GM Scott Mellanby are already two guys that have been linked to potentially being some candidates for the Vancouver Canucks. What do you think about those two gentlemen?
I think that there has to be interest. You'd be shocked not to see what the success Marc Bergevin did have with the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, look, they're in the Stanley Cup final, right? And I think that you build a team and you get to a certain place. There has to be some interest there. I'm not entirely sure. He does have a connection here to Vancouver, obviously playing here. Scott Mellanby also has a connection to Vancouver with the ownership group, but it wouldn't surprise me if they went the president of hockey ops route and then also hired a general manager. But look, Dave, well, like I said, you're going to hear a lot of different names. You're going to hear names that are completely outside the box as well in the way that they're thinking, the way that they want to go about their business now. Because like I said, 8 years of a mess, you can't fix it overnight.
No, definitely not. And we'll end this on just asking the obvious with respect to the Sedin brothers. Uh, any possibility that their role gets escalated a little quicker than perhaps they had thought? Where do you think they fit into this new eventual regime in Vancouver?
Well, I think right now, after the statement that the Canucks did put out on Sunday night, their roles are going to get elevated. The leadership group now that is in place is Stan Smeel, Ryan Johnson, Chris Gear, and Daniel Henrik Sedin. So yes, they're going to be leaned on for advice. I don't think that they want to be the ones that are going to be the general manager of this team. I don't think that they're there yet. I think that they still want to spend maybe a year, another year, learning the ins and outs and seeing the Canucks farm team in Abbotsford and doing things and then trying to figure out eventually in maybe a few years. I just don't see it happening yet, but you can bet that Francesco Aquilini, that Stan Smeel, that everyone in that leadership group is going to be leaning on the Sedins to help make this decision and this eventual next hire.
Well, Irf, great job uncovering this one, especially over the course leading up to Sunday night. You broke the news with respect to Benning, Weisbrod, Baumgartner as well. We'll keep tabs on this situation as the season progresses and provide some updates here on the fourth period. That's Irfaan Gaffar. I'm Dave Pagnotta. We'll talk to you next time.